Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. I hope you're all doing well. As well as you can be during all of this that's going on. I know I am. I'm trying at least. Trying to really make sense of it all and try to stay on top of it, and most importantly, trying to stay sane in this whole thing, really, is what it is. I appreciate all the emails that I've been getting from people, different information. I glanced over like some of the longer ones because some people send me like pages and pages and pages, which I greatly appreciate that. And I kind of glanced over it, but I'm going to be going back through and I'm really going to be digging into it. And if I end up using some of them in my videos, you will get full credit for them, so look forward to that. Also, if you haven't really been paying attention, which most of you have, if you haven't really paid attention, there is a whole lot going on with like this first one that I got pulled up here. Just the rhetoric with the Taliban and the murky withdrawal, and they're saying it was good and it was flawless, and they're saying that there's no problems and everything's all good. But then on the other hand, you got people saying that it's terrible, people are dying, they're hanging people from helicopters, they're killing children and this and that, and really the truth lies somewhere in the middle, as always, which I believe it's a cesspool over there right now. Because that's what happens when you destabilize countries and then go in and establish mercenaries and opposites within a country after you've been at war with it. This is what you're looking at right now is literally what happens. It's always happened this way in the history of the world, and let's go ahead and jump into it. But first, let me tell you, if you're not aware that there's some big false flag coming soon, like very soon, not a year from now, not 6 months from now, like very, very soon. DHS worried Taliban takeover could inspire extremist violence in U.S. report. So again, just like the DHS bulletin. Department of Homeland Security officials are reportedly concerned that far-right extremist groups inspired by the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan could carry out violent attacks in the U.S. Already setting it up so they can blame, quote, far-right whatever, which we already know we all fall in under that purview. All of us do. That was the point of QAnon. That was the point of the Trump presidency, to where they could bring all of these different people who believe all these different things under one umbrella and then destroy that group. They've done it. Now we're seeing why. John Cohen, head of the DHS Office of Intelligence and Analysis, said in a call with local and state law enforcement officials Friday that white supremacists and other violent extremist groups have been framing the activities of the Taliban as a success, according to CNN, which obtained the conversation. Okay, let me stop here. I've not heard anybody say that, what they're saying. We know they lie out of both sides of their mouth. They don't even try to tell a lie with one side and then turn and tell the truth with the other. No, they just straight lie. They just like to lie. And that is one of their most favored activities. Lying to anybody, to themselves, to each other, to us, to their bosses, and all the way up the flagpole. I've not heard anybody saying that the activities of the Taliban were a success. So, John Cohen, you told a lie. Cohen also reportedly noted that the groups have held discussions on the Great Replacement concept, the belief that an influx of Afghan refugees or other immigrants could threaten the standing power of white Americans. Again, I've not ever heard anybody say anything like this. You know why? Because people generally don't think this way. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that think that way, because of course there are. Of course there are people out there that are like that. But guess what? They are the very small minority. They would say this about any one of us in this group right now. Even though none of us have ever held any kind of ideologies like that, even they would say that about me, and they would dissect all of my videos, all of my posts, and they would go through and they would find the one thing, they would clip it out, and they would put it with something else that I said in a video 3 months before, and they would say, look at this guy. That's the kind of tactics that they use. Let's go on to the next paragraph. Quote, there are concerns that those narratives may incite violent activities directed at immigrant communities, certain faith communities, or even those who are relocated to the United States, Cohen said, according to CNN. Another lie. The Hill has reached out to DHS for additional information. The reported comments follow similar assessments by independent firm SITE Intelligence Group, which said in a recent report that the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan has invigorated far-right extremist communities, whether by their desire to emulate the Taliban or increasingly violent rhetoric about invasions by displaced Afghans. Again, when have you heard anybody ever say anything like that? They are lying. They are lying to your face. The Taliban's rapid territorial gains prompted the U.S. and coalition forces to airlift thousands of American citizens and Afghan allies out of Afghanistan. They act like they didn't allow the Taliban to take over all of that territory in a short time. So they can do this. It's all leading up to this. This big false flag that's coming. The Biden administration has said that it was able to successfully evacuate more than 123,000 people ahead of its Tuesday deadline, including roughly 6,000 Americans and tens of thousands of Afghan allies. With the 20th anniversary of September 11th terrorist attacks quickly approaching, DHS officials have also warned of risk of potential violence from foreign terror groups. So not only are they concerned, if you can't see me doing the air quotes, I am concerned about, right-wing agitators and violence and this and that and that and this, they're also concerned about these foreign terror groups. But who's really going to be behind these attacks? Same people that were behind the original September 11th attacks. They always have been. They always will be. The goal is a new world order, and that's where we are now. There's no other way to put it. You can't put it another way. A bulletin released in August noted that the anniversary of the attacks that prompted America's longest war, as well as religious holidays, could serve as a catalyst for acts of targeted violence. We read that bulletin on here. If you did not see my video on that, please refer to it. I read the whole bulletin, dissected it, and it was very uncomfortable. DHS said at the time that racially motivated and anti-government extremists may seek to exploit the emergence of COVID-19 variants by viewing the potential reestablishment of public health restrictions across the United States as a rationale to conduct attacks. The reopening of institutions, including schools, as well as several dates of religious significance over the next few months, could also provide increased targets of opportunity for violence. DHS said, though it noted that there were currently no credible or imminent threats identified to these locations. Currently no credible or imminent threats identified to these locations. In other words, they're just making it up openly. Although there are no credible threats that someone's going to burn a house down, I'm going to go ahead and sit here and say that my neighbor is plotting to burn a house down. That's the kind of stuff that they're into. But let's move on, because I got more on this subject. This is an article on the DHS Bulletin. You can see it's dated August 13th, 2021. But I wanted to go through it again just because, well, I've never read this article, but I wanted to go through an outline of the bulletin because I just wanted to bring this back up because they're talking about the 20th anniversary of 9/11. They've been talking about it for months. And they got some big celebration or big event planned in New York on that day. And it's not sure exactly what's going to come of that. The upcoming 20th anniversary of September 11th attacks, as well as approaching religious holidays, could inspire extremist attacks, Department of Homeland Security said in a terrorism alert issued Friday. Again, we went over that. Please refer to it. DHS did not cite any specific threats in the National Terrorism Advisory System bulletin, but it noted that the U.S. is in a heightened threat environment, fueled by factors that include violent extremists motivated by racial and ethnic hatred and resentment of restrictions imposed during the pandemic. So right there in that sentence, they lump the people in who are, not very happy about restrictions, of course. They lump you in with racial and ethnic hatred. You can be one without the other. You can disagree with the restrictions and still love everybody. I'm that way. I am very against all these restrictions. But guess what? I have no racial or ethnic hatred of any kind. And if I did, my own family would disown me. They would. 2 of my brothers are black and my nephew is half black. So my family would literally disown me if I was like that. So for those listening who are in the higher up positions that might want to take things that I say and twist them around, you could take that right to the bank, cash it, and go do something with it. So there's that. DHS issues the warnings to alert the public as well as state and local authorities. They reflect intelligence gathered from other law enforcement agencies. You know that they literally just set up here that, there's DHS did not cite any specific threats in the National Terrorism Advisory System. And they literally said that there are no credible threats, but they're going on this whole huge thing about people motivated by racial and ethnic hatred and resentment of restrictions. And DHS issued the warning to alert the public as well as state and local authorities. They reflect intelligence gathered from other law enforcement agencies. So I'm not even gonna. Let's just keep going. The bulletin is an extension of a similar one issued in May that expired on the day the new one was issued. DHS says domestic extremists remain a national threat priority for U.S. law enforcement and will for at least the remainder of the year. Yeah, at least for the remainder of the year. The agency noted that Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula recently released the first English-language edition of its Inspire magazine in 4 years, apparently to mark the upcoming anniversary of September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. The anniversary and the approaching holidays could serve as a catalyst for acts of targeted violence, it said. Let's go back to 9/11 for a minute. Look at the narrative that they were able to form, okay? By saying that, random people who didn't know anything about anything managed to hijack planes and crash into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon in the most secured place in the world, the United States. Literally, our airspace is, you cannot have a plane up for more than 5 minutes without somebody coming in on your thing and saying that you better get down or identify yourself or they're going to shoot you down. And we all know what happened on 9/11. And we all know about all of that. We've all seen everything. But just look what they've been able to do. 20 years later, they're able to still scare people with the foreign terrorists. They're able to say that, the Taliban or Al-Qaeda released their first English language edition of its Inspire magazine in 4 years. This is going to inspire people, domestic extremists in the United States in order to carry out these things. And this is how they conquer populations. This is what totalitarian governments have always done. They've always made up boogeymen. Always. Literally, always. In order to usurp the rights of the people. There are only two sides, ladies and gentlemen. Two sides. Freedom, tyranny. That's it. The anniversary and the approaching holidays could serve as a catalyst for acts of targeted violence. DHS also noted that domestic extremists motivated by religious and ethnic hatred have in the past attacked houses of worship and other gatherings, but said there aren't any credible or imminent threats identified to these locations. Of course, and the ones that were, those were MK Ultra false flags in order to try to turn the public's mind against firearms. In the case with the mosque that got shot up, and then there was something else too. I forget, but anytime those things happen, it's just... Anywho, as in the previous bulletins, DHS expressed concern about both domestic extremists motivated by personal grievances and extremist ideological beliefs and foreign influences. Okay, domestic extremists motivated by personal grievance and extremist ideological beliefs, that's you. That's literally you. In these 72 types of Americans considered to be terrorists, in the DHS outline of the 72 types of Americans to be considered terrorists and their watch list guidance in 2013, I have the document. It says anyone connected to a personal grievance is a terrorist. And you know what they could do to you if they call you a terrorist? Do you know what they can do to you? You have no constitutional rights. You have no anything. They will pick you up and throw you in a hole or execute you straight up and tell the world that you are a terrorist. The agency said Russian, Chinese, and Iranian government-linked media outlets have helped spread conspiracy theories about the origins of C-19 and the effectiveness of Vs, and have in some cases amplified calls for violence against people of Asian descent. What? Again, that makes absolutely no sense. They're literally firing on all cylinders. They are trying to turn everybody against everybody else based on anything. It don't even matter what it is. All of this will continue until they get their ultimate goal. There will be an event. I got more. All right, here we are over at Desert Review. Am I recording? I never know about this recording app. Check this one out. DHS labels those questioning C-shots domestic violent extremists. So if you're questioning it, you are a domestic violent extremist. Are there any real Americans left? Honestly, that's not rhetorical. Are there any real Americans left? Because I see people that are just ready and willing to call anybody who goes against anything that they're doing as a terrorist, or as a conspiracy nut, or wanting you to be arrested, or beaten up, or killed, or whatever. People that back then probably would have stood for freedom now are bending over and taking it. And in this article, they referenced the bulletin again, which we went over. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security recently issued a new National Terrorism Advisory System bulletin, implying that if Americans question and challenge the COVID shot mandates, they are now considered potential domestic violent extremists. However, as the United States approaches the 20th anniversary of 9/11 terrorist attacks, the terrorism alert does not mention Muslim extremism being a threat, and it barely mentions Al-Qaeda. Yeah, it mentions you and me and anybody they want to call a terrorist. The Secretary of Homeland Security made an alarming announcement, creating this as the official position of the United States government under Joe Biden. The NTAS bulletin states, these threats include those posed by domestic terrorists, individuals and groups engaged in grievance-based violence. Such threats are also exacerbated by impacts of the ongoing global pandemic, including grievances over public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions. Perceived government restrictions. So, according to the Biden administration, the imposed COVID shot mandates are only perceived government restrictions instead of actual violations of federal law and the Nuremberg Code. So-called V's against C-19 have only been approved for experimental investigational use, which emphasizes that people cannot be forced to take experimental drugs without their full consent. All of the C-19 mRNA injections, all the companies right there, have received only authorization of emergency use and not full FDA approval. Well, except for the one that they said got full approval. But even if it does, it don't matter, because the FDA is a corrupt organization as well. The EUAs for both Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna mRNA experimental injections, and any other EUA shot require fact sheets to be given to V providers and recipients. The issue of forced medical experimentation in Germany during the 30s and 40s and the related trials of doctors and public health officials led to the adoption of the Nuremberg Code. Interestingly, the FDA includes on its website the Nuremberg Code, which emphasizes that people cannot be forced to take experimental drugs without their full consent. Yeah, that was a big one. Informed consent. That is now gone. There's manufactured consent. There's really no such thing as full consent at all anymore. Everything is manufactured, ready-made truths. Ready-made, ready to go on your 6 o'clock news, ready to go in your brain to form your mind to be a good little citizen of the New World Order. However, neither the federal law nor the Nuremberg Code, and certainly not Americans' freedom to choose, mean anything to the Biden administration. On the other hand, the DHS seems rather paranoid in their need to label anyone as a terrorist who would question the C-19 response. And then the bulletin continues, through the remainder of 2021, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and anti-government, anti-authority violent extremists will remain a national threat priority for the United States. They're scared. This is what happens when they're afraid. And you know what they're afraid of? They're afraid that people are going to wake up. Wake up and smell the coffee and realize what they've been doing to us for all of these years. These extremists may seek to exploit the emergence of C-19 variants by viewing the potential reestablishment of public health restrictions across the United States as a rationale to conduct attacks. Pandemic-related stressors have contributed to increased societal strains and tensions, driving several plots by domestic violent extremists, and they may contribute to more violence this year. There are also continued non-specific calls for violence on multiple online platforms associated with domestic violent extremist ideologies or conspiracy theories on perceived election fraud, alleged reinstatement in responses to anticipated restrictions relating to the increased COVID cases. You see how they lump people that seek the truth in with the military psychological operation that was QAnon. Why did that radio just come on? That was weird. It just came on by itself. Yeah, they get... Now when people look at you, if you say something about like chemtrails Or if you say something about, hey, New World Order right now, somebody will look at you and they will call you oh, you're one of them QAnon Trump guys, aren't you? No, not even close. That's crap. They did a very good job at decimating, completely destroying the truth community as a whole. Anybody that was looking into anything got swept up in all of that. And I remember I watched channel after channel after channel just fall in line with that QAnon garbage. And they believed it, and still do. It's all busy work, hamster on the wheel, while they build the New World Order right now, right around every single one of us. And then you get the people that think, that this type of stuff is for entertainment purposes. And I have to emphasize every single time I talk to somebody, this is not for entertainment. This is real life. These are legitimate concerns that I have, that others in this community have, that everybody should have if you want some semblance of any life whatsoever. If you're a real American and you love freedom, you would be in uproar against any of this right now. And the people that get mad at that, you know what? If the shoe fits. I'm at the point right now to where I'm done apologizing. I'm not being, of course I'm still nice. That's who I am. I'm a nice person. You guys all know that. You guys basically know me. I've been doing this for 8 months now? 7, 8 months? So you guys basically know everything about me. But I'm done. I am done completely with babying people and powdering their butts and trying to spoon feed information. You either get it or you don't. You either look into it, see that this was a plan for a long time, or you just don't. I really don't have time to explain it anymore, and we don't have time to sit here and try to explain it anymore. Now, more than at least half of Americans who have refused the injections would now be defined as dissidents and domestic terrorists within their own nation. In addition, the very freedom for which Americans have fought and died is now merely figments of their imagination. The needle being forced into the arms of federal workers, airline workers, etc., is only the perception of a forced medical treatment, instead of reviewing the actual VAERS data that shows 51,830 adverse events, including 12,791 deaths as of August 6, 2021. Liberty Counsel founder and chairman Matt Staver said, quote, "The Department of Homeland Security Terror Threat Bulletin, which includes people who question COVID shots and unconstitutional government mandates, is appalling. While this sounds like fake news, it's unfortunately true. Shame on," he says shame on the Biden DHS. It's not Biden's DHS, it's DHS. And yes, shame on the DHS. Remember when Obama first said that he was going to have a civilian military that rivals the U.S. military? He was talking about a military for civilians. That's when he empowered Homeland Security with NDAA in 2014. Every single year, NDAA is signed. And Trump, he extended the Patriot Act. We went over that on here. Yep, he sure did. He renewed and extended the Patriot Act. So, that's really nice. All of this that's going on right now probably would have took another 10 years if it wasn't for the Trump presidency. The Trump presidency allowed them to get so much done. Because so many people just sat on the couch, didn't do their due diligence, watched the TV, and watched this guy lie to their face and cheered him on for it. Let's move on. Alright, here we are over at our friends at NPR, which I believe stands for National Public Radio, but I call it not public radio. Because NPR, or it could be something propaganda. So I don't know. New propaganda reinforcement. There you go. Check this out. In a message to Americans, Pope Francis says getting vaccinated is an act of love. Can you believe that? An act of love. Really? Really? And I can't wait to see how he explains this. An act of love. Yeah, right. Pope Francis is adding his voice to a campaign to overcome VE skepticism, issuing a public service announcement insisting that VEs are safe, effective, and an act of love. They always got to say that. Safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. How many times have you heard that? The video message, released Wednesday, is aimed at global audience, but directed particularly at the Americas. It features 6 cardinals and archbishops from North, Central, and South America, as well as the Argentine-born Pope. It was produced by the Vatican and Ad Council, which produced a series of pro-V ads in a bid to get more people marked. So, pro-mark propaganda is what it is. In his comments, Francis said, quote, being V'd with V's, authorized by the competent authorities, is an act of love. That's funny how he said that. Being vaccinated with vaccines authorized by the competent authorities is an act of love. The competent authorities. I can't believe people can't see through this charade, especially now. Especially now. I thought it was bad before all of this. Then when all of this started, I've just been blown away. Absolutely blown away by the cognitive dissonance, the hatred for people's fellow man, the ready to serve you up. When the Bible says, then they will deliver you up to be afflicted, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake, that makes sense in 2021. He added, marking, we'll call it, is a simple but profound way of promoting the common good and caring for each other, especially the most vulnerable. There's that word again, the common good. Communism. They really just come out and tell you now. You don't even have to look. All the information is literally right there. They basically print their agenda on the news every single day. Francis had emphasized the start of the situation, the need to ensure equal access to the mark, especially for the poor. But faced with increasing skepticism about marks, especially among religious conservatives, the Vatican has vowed an all-out effort to overcome hesitancy and encourage widespread marking. The Vatican has declared that it is morally acceptable for Catholics to receive C19 marks, including those based on research that use cells derived from aborted fetuses. Do people not remember when the Pope and his cardinals, there was that video going around? I actually mirrored it on this channel. I'm not sure if it's this channel or my backup. But they were literally singing about worshiping Lucifer. The Vatican literally is ruled by Lucifer. They all pay homage to him. And all these people are going to fall for this. My people shall perish for a lack of knowledge. That literally just popped in my head right now. I know, Lord. I know. Well, I can't say I know, I understand. Man, he just like zipped that into my mind right there. Boom! My people shall perish for a lack of knowledge. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm listening, Father. Not you. You're a evil something. I have no idea what you are. Let's move on. Alright, I wanted to bring this one up in the last video, but I forgot to. But we'll go ahead and run through it right now. Americans are losing sight of the situation endgame. Entirely eliminating infections is an unrealistic goal, but successful marks will avoid the worst outcomes. Okay. And they talk about this Celine Argonder, internist, infectious disease specialist, epidemiologist at NYU Grossman School of Medicine, Bellevue Hospital. She's also the host of the podcast Epidemic. Doctors and scientists need to have an honest conversation with the American people about what the goals of C19 marks are and how the situation will end. Well, if they were going to have an honest conversation with us about what the goals of the C19 marks are, an honest conversation would go something like, well, yeah, the goal is to, take out a significant portion of the population to be in tune with the Georgia Guidestones, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the world order that we are trying to build and have been trying to build for a long time. And according to Klaus Schwab, the situation will never end. Even without the rise of the Delta variant, no one should be surprised to see some people develop infections a few months after marking. Oh, no one should be surprised, but they were telling you literally 2 months ago that can never happen. I'm pretty sure people still believe that can never ever happen. Though there may be value in eventually giving an additional dose or two, strengthen protection against the disease, we're unlikely to prevent all infections with booster shots. But the key message is that if you're marked, you're well protected against life-threatening disease. We'll just be giving you an additional dose or two. No big deal. This makes absolutely... If we can't prevent all infections, what's the end game? A July C19 outbreak in Provincetown, Massachusetts, offered a preview of what America's post-situation future might look like. Almost 3/4 of the people who became infected with the C there were fully V'd. Let me read that again. Almost 3/4, so 75% of the people who became infected with the mystery disease there were fully marked, and most had symptoms of a bad head cold. Lost in most media coverage was that only 1% of fully marked people who became infected were hospitalized. No fully marked person died from C19. That's a lie. That's a flat-out lie. This should have been cause for celebration. In a scenario which some people might still become infected, but very few get seriously ill, or hospitalized, or die, we can move from public health emergency to more normal life. Again, according to Klaus Schwab, we're never going back to normal. I cannot believe they can sit here and honestly tell people, and they believe it, that no fully marked person has died from C19. That is a flat out... Well, actually, technically, no, that's not a lie. Of course they didn't die from that. They died from something else. I see what you did there. And, people get the mark or whatever, and they're like, well, yeah, I got sick, and I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, but I would have died if I didn't have this shot. How do you know that? You don't know that. It would have been worse. Here's something for you. In my personal experience, regardless of any of this, I've never had a flu shot, ever. Guess what I've never had? The flu. Yeah, that's right. Ever. Don't know what you could chalk that up to, but Marks alone won't prevent all infections or eliminate the C, but a widespread mark could turn C19 into something more like influenza. Well, I thought it was, according to Fauci and all them, it has a 99.99% survival rate. And he literally said, unlike seasonal influenza, which has a 10% to 36% mortality rate, C19 has a 0.001% mortality rate. But okay. As a society, Americans have shown that we are willing to live with 12 to 60,000 deaths from influenza each year. C19 is more dangerous than the flu. Approximately 630,000 Americans have died of this C to date. Lie. What about that one guy they said last year he got shot in the head in New York with a .22? They said he would have survived if he didn't have COVID. What about the kid in Florida who wrecked a motorcycle? 22-year-old kid. Died from a motorcycle wreck, right? Same thing, they said, well, if he wouldn't have had COVID, he wouldn't have died. But if we could cut death rate by 90% or more, it would be on par with what we see in a bad flu season. We don't shut down the economy for the flu, we socialize normally during flu season. Yeah, you know why? Because normally there's not an agenda at play with the regular flu on this scale. Americans have to recalibrate our expectations about what makes a mark successful. The public discussion of the situation has become distorted by a presumption that mark can and should eliminate C19 entirely. Under such an unattainable standard, each breakthrough infection looks like evidence that the marks are not working, but in reality they continue to perform extremely well. But wait, never mind. Many Americans' unrealistic expectations of C19 marks may have originated with real-world evidence published by the CDC in March, showing that in the first couple months after marks, 2 doses of the Pfizer-Moderna mark were 90% effective at preventing SARS-CoV-2 infections, not just disease. People, including many experts, took this to mean that marked people basically couldn't get infected and couldn't transmit the virus to others. This set the stage for the CDC to say that fully marked people no longer need to wear a mask in most situations. Many Americans believe that if they were marked, they couldn't get C19 and could end all precautions, but longer-term follow-up showed that mark effectiveness against infection later dropped to 66%. 66%, eh? This is called damage control. A piece like this is called damage control. What they do is they come out and they say, well, remember when we told you guys that nobody was going to die of C19 if they got marked? Well, turns out they are dying, but it would have been worse. To which I would respond, go out in the real world. Open your eyes. All last year, nobody died that wouldn't have died normally. Don't know anybody. Not one person. Fast forward to this year. I now know of 3 people who have died after taking something that they should not have taken. And many other people are now talking about hospitalizations and people going into comas and stuff and getting put on ventilators. And all last year it was just like, oh, they said on the TV that this and that was happening. But no, now people are like, yeah, Mark down the road, he ended up in the hospital real bad. They're not connecting 2 and 2 though. They're not seeing that what changed was people started getting something. What do I know, though, right? What the hell do I know? Make sure we're still recording. I firmly believe that people are going to just fully accept any control measures that they put forth. Anything. and they will defend it to the death. Well, this one goes on to say basically just what it's already been saying. Let me go down through here a little bit. I'm trying to just run through this one because I want to get to something else. Shots in arms much better at preventing disease and preventing infection, blah, 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 blah. And they're basically go on a crusade, a pro-V crusade. This is a long article. Okay, let's see. But down here, the goal isn't to eliminate SARS-CoV-2 infections. We can't. No matter how many booster shots the United States gives, the goal is to slow the spread, save lives, and eventually turn C-19 into something much less deadly. Something more like the flu. Again, more people die from that in their own documents. They state that. So, this whole piece just lost its credibility. Nice job, Celine R. Gounder. You don't even know that. Oh, man. Even with their inflated numbers, it's at what? 3 million something so far people died? Out of 7.8 billion? That's nothing. Nothing. Somebody needs to set something up like somebody who's good at like tech things and creating different images and videos of animations. They needed to put like 7.5 billion dots. Granted, it would probably be a black screen, but, and then take 3 million dots out of that. And let's see what changes. Guarantee it still stays a black screen because of all the dots. Because in the real world, 3 million compared to 7.8 billion is nothing. Moving on. Alright, I actually had a Wall Street Journal one pulled up with this title, but it was telling me I had to become a member and get a subscription and all that, and I don't feel like doing all that. So, get a load of this. Researchers ready lab-grown Delta variant for human trials. That sounds nice. That sounds great. Oh, that sounds like the greatest thing ever. What can go wrong with that? While the rest of the world is trying to stamp out the C-19 Delta variant, British researchers are making progress growing a carefully controlled batch in a lab that they hope to use to infect volunteers in studies. There's no such thing as carefully controlled batch in a... Something always happens. Oh, there was a break in something and it got released, if that's what they'll say. Nobody should even be messing with stuff like that. Ever. Human beings are not meant to mess with stuff like that. The effort marks a new phase in the UK's human challenge trials, the only C-19 studies in the world intentionally exposing participants to the V, with the goal of developing new Vs and, marks and treatments. Other researchers are also isolating and growing COVID variant specimens for study. U.S. government-funded scientists are producing variants for research, but not for use in humans, a National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease official said. Well, I would say that they were lying. 2 COVID challenge trials sponsored by Imperial College London and the University of Oxford started earlier this year in the UK. They have so far exposed more than 40 healthy young volunteers under isolated medical supervision to the original Wuhan strain that circulated widely in 2020. Since then, the highly transmissible Delta variant has come to dominate infections globally, rendering marks less effective and boosting case numbers across the UK, US, and elsewhere. This is what they're going to keep doing. And they're going to keep saying, oh, those marks that you got, they're outdated. You got to get more. And eventually that's going to turn into, oh, here, come get your update. Just like an iPhone. You're an iPhone now. You don't believe me? Won't you go listen to what they were talking about in Davos, Switzerland, and also what they were talking about at Cyberpolygon when they were talking about the Internet of Bodies? Yeah, go look at that. People that think that transhumanism and connecting humans to the internet is a conspiracy theory. Well, a lot of high-level meetings and high-level gatherings are saying otherwise. So, yeah. Delta's fast rise led researchers in the UK challenge trial partner HVivo Services Ltd to focus on trying to grow the variant in the lab. With colleagues in the Netherlands, HVivo has coaxed the Delta strain to mature through seed stage. Andrew Catchpole, HVivo's chief scientist officer and a virologist who oversees the virus manufacturing, the London clinical research firm is continuing to grow the match millimeter by millimeter from a specimen taken from an infected human. Well, that sounds lovely. That sounds like nothing can ever go wrong. This is something to watch. Moving on. And what would be a normal day in this new world if we didn't have the latest boogeyman? Remember how we were just talking about making the previous marks obsolete? Here's how they're going to do it. World Health Organization says it is monitoring a new variant called Mu. Okay, I'm going to monitor a new variant called P. Oh, I got another one called D. Oh, maybe there's one called L. They're literally making fun of you. They know how stupid people are that they will believe this. Okay, it has mutations that have the potential to evade immunity provided by previous C19 infection or mark, the WHO said. The new variant was first identified in Colombia, since been confirmed in at least 39 countries, according to the agency. Well, there's your numerology right there. I'm sure we'll see more. The World Health Organization is monitoring a new coronavirus variant called Mu, which the agency says has mutations that have potential to evade immunity provided by previous C19 infection or mark. This is where the boosters come in. This is where the yearly, immunization agenda 2030. No one left behind. Here you are. Here we are. Get out of here. Okay, Mu, also known by scientists as B1621. My numerology people can decode that one right there. Was added to the WHO's list of variants of interest. On August 30th, International Health Organization said in its weekly COVID epidemiological report published late Tuesday. The variant contains more genetic mutations that indicate natural immunity. Current marks or monoclonal antibody treatments may not work as well against it as they do against the original ancestral virus, the WHO said. The Mu strain needs further study to confirm whether it will prove to be more contagious, more deadly, or more resistant to current marks and treatments. Mu has a constellation of mutations that indicate potential properties of immune escape, the WHO wrote in a report Tuesday. Preliminary data presented to the Virus Evolution Working Group show a reduction in neutralization capacity of convalescent and marked sera similar to that seen for beta variant, but this needs to be confirmed by further studies. Yeah, they're going to do all these new studies and come out and all they're going to say, experts said. Not going to refer you to that study. They just need to give the perception that they are doing what they're saying that they're doing. Crazy, crazy world. The agency is monitoring 4 variants of concern, including Delta, which was first detected in India and its most prevalent variant currently circulating in the US. Alpha, first detected in the UK, Beta, South Africa, and Gamma, Brazil. Let me tell you something. Frank Gay sending me the videos. Thanks, Frank. Let me tell you something. Anyone that was in the military will tell you, if you see language like that, Alpha, Beta, Delta, that is military talk. This is a military operation. No more, no less. A variant of concern is generally defined as a mutated strain that's either more contagious, more deadly, or more resistant to current marks and treatments. It's also keeping a close watch on 4 other variants of interest, including Lambda, first identified in Peru, caused outbreaks in multiple countries and have genetic changes that could make them more dangerous to other strains. Delta was the variant of interest until WHO reclassified it in early May after preliminary studies found it could spread more easily than other versions of the virus. The variant has since been blamed for a number of large outbreaks around the world, including in the United States. New variant Mu was first identified in Colombia, since been confirmed in 39 countries according to the WHO, although world prevalence of the variant among sequenced cases decline is currently below 0.1%. Its prevalence in Colombia and Ecuador has consistently increased, the agency warned. The WHO said more studies are required to understand the clinical characteristics of the new variant. The epidemiology of the Mu variant in South America, particularly with co-circulation of Delta, will be monitored for changes, the agency said. I really don't know what else to tell anybody, honestly. If you can't see that people like myself, many of you, other people that make videos, just people in general, what happened was we read and read and read what these people said that they were going to do. And then they did it. And we didn't stop there. We predicted every single step that they would take. And it's come to pass exactly as they told us it would. It's crazy. But we need to be on the lookout right now. We need to be on watch for a false flag. The ultimate goal is to get as many shots into people's arms as possible. Well, the whole world population. If something big went down and we lost like the power grid or something, how many people you think they'd be able to go around and be like, boom, 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 boom? In the midst of all that chaos, they've done it before with other things. It's going to get ugly. This is the Great Reset. We're still in the middle of it. And on the other side of this Great Reset is a new world order, one world totalitarian government. Has many different characteristics. Many different types of government go into it. We're literally just going to have to watch and see what's going on, but I'll be making another video this weekend. I'm also going to go live probably on Saturday. I'll probably set it up tomorrow to be scheduled for Saturday sometime. In my next video, I'm going to dive deeper into some things that have been going on behind the scenes. Like, I want to bring up the one thing I was reading before. I named it How It All Ties In, but it's basically just everything, all the high-level meetings that took place before and during the situation. Everything that's got to do with the reset. All of it. So, like I said, I'm back on the horse. going to be digging in, and we're going to be pumping out videos. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.